Get them down?
Yep.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I'll say that. Thank you all for coming this evening. So it's a pleasure. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion. Motion by Ron.
Second.
Second by Gary. Sorry, Jim. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. This time we have a moment for public comment. Okay. Thank you, public. Consent items. Do you have a motion to approve the consent items?
Motion.
Motion made by Michaeline.
Second.
Second by seconded. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Discussion items. Houston Elementary update. Mr. Bartz.
I'm going to give you a brief update on some things that have been happening in the building since I was here back in January. And then we have two people that are going to talk about STEAM or STEM and tell you about some of the things that have been happening in the building with STEAM and STEM this year. So we wrapped up the magazine sale in February. It's the only real fundraiser that we have in the building, and we made a profit of $5,000. At this point, money still keeps coming in because there's some online sales too. That money goes to pay for field trips, lyceums, and the PBIS rewards that we give out, anything so the children don't have to pay for field trips in the elementary school. Speaking of PBIS, we completed the training for cohort number 12. And so on March 14th, we completed the 2 years of training. So PBIS is fully functional in our building, I guess is the word to use. Literacy Night was March 1st. Great turnout by parents and children participated in that. First grade had their annual Donuts for Dad on March 9th. And they're having Muffins with Mom on May 11th. Kindergarten open house was March 16th. We have about 32 kindergartners that we're expecting for the 2018-19 school year. It was a good group of parents and children on that day. Science fair was March 22nd. Some great projects. Those of you that got a chance to see it, it was really a nice event. We had parent conferences on the 26th and 27th. And at that same time, we have Scholastic Book Fair. And the profits that we get from that can be used to buy books through Scholastic Books. And so we ordered a lot of STEM books to add to our library. Schoology Training began on March 28th. The two Train Your Trainers attended that. They're going to attend another one on March 12th. And then throughout the course of the rest of the school year, we'll have the teachers spend 2 days training on Schoology, and then we'll spend some time this summer working on it. On March 28th, the staff and students were surprised to have the bus drivers serving lunch. So the bus drivers came and served lunch to the kids, and I really don't know who was having more fun, the bus drivers or the kids, but it was a neat experience. Coming up, statewide tornado drill is April 12th at 1:45. MCA testing begins next week, and then we have a week off of MCA testing, and then we conclude on the week of the 24th through the 27th. And I have two teachers who volunteered to talk to the school board about some of the STEAM/STEM things that we've been doing in our building. So it's all yours.
Sure. Well, we just went through, we asked the teachers, we knew some things that were happening, but we asked what they were doing. So we just kind of broken them into categories, and we'll just share. And if you want more details, we have more notes, but mostly for the lower grades. They have sensory tables and manipulative bins that they put together for STEAM, building letters with Legos, constructing bridges, airplanes, houses, trains, and such.
And their bins or sensory tables just have a whole bunch of different materials. One might have paper clips and something else they can use. Another might have little things that they can fit together and build, whatever. Some of them kind of are seasonal. They might do something Christmas related, using, you know, maybe something to do with snow or any of those types of materials, so that they're just having hands-on with lots of different materials and types of things to work with. The second activity is incorporating STEAM activities into the curriculum. For example, in the 5th grade, you might see 5th graders building inventions inspired by Leonardo da Vinci as we learn about the Renaissance period. In other grades, you might see students building some simple machines as they're learning about simple machines, or making dinosaur fossils, or designing dog sleds as they read, oh boy, it just went out of my head, the book they read in 3rd grade, Stone Fox.
And I know different ones have built in each week with their journey stories out of the reading curriculum, STEM activities or STEAM activities that they can use every week. And hands-on math activities. I know certainly did things for the 100th day of school. There was building of different things. They did things with toothpicks, dominoes to reinforce number sense, probability activities, just different surveys, creating data charts, things like that.
And we, like, in my classroom, we took it a little bit further. We have investigations with sex and math. So a lot of great information in that book, but then we did things like the number of snaps we could do in a minute. So we made a line plot with that information, or we timed how many jumping jacks they could do in 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and then they had to do a scatter plot with that. All kinds of fun things that really depended on their information that they brought to the table instead of what was just in the book.
And I know they had to go out and interview people, ask them their favorite breakfast beverage, their favorite season of the year, things like that, and then we made bar graphs. And also I know 3rd grade always does what is the favorite lunch of all the students at Houston Elementary, and every grade fills out a sheet and they plot that information.
Each different level has done a STEAM Station Day. So our 5th and 6th grade team, we incorporated, I think it was about 10, we included Mr. Bart's in our stations this year. With robotics teams, we were doing bridge building, we experienced life as a drop of water, we brought STEAM in this year by including the arts and the math activities as well.
So then each station was about 20 minutes long, and then the students just traveled, we stayed, and we did the station 10 different times, but they traveled and did 10 different activities or experiments that each day.
And the kids love that day, they look forward to it. Grade 1 completed their STEAM Station Day on the 100th day of school, and they were doing things like making mazes out of puzzles. They had to use a straw to move an egg around the room, and then they had to try and see if they could do it even faster. They were building boats, all kinds of fun things like that. And then
grade 2 through 4 will complete theirs this month sometime.
The next thing that we do is the Science Expo, which I've already heard you talking about it. But as a mom, I've noticed that we've kind of tried to make that a little bit one step further. Like this year in particular, we really encouraged our kids to develop their own ideas to test. For example, I had one little boy that was on a farm. His idea was to test if the little piglets had the instinct to go back to the same nipple each time they would nurse. Unfortunately, the first time he started, it was from his pig, and most of the little piglets died, so he had to hope his brother's pig had enough piglets to do. Another boy in my class, he decided to test how long it takes different acids to eat away deer antlers. And another boy in a different grade wanted to see how long it takes different toilet paper to break apart. And I don't know if you saw his experiment. That was really cool to see. The next thing we're trying to do is, okay, so if they can't come up with their own idea, we're encouraging them to complete the test on their own. You know, as a mom in the past, science fair was very stressful, so my kids would come home and we'd do everything together. Well, this year, a lot of my kids were talking about just doing it on their own. So I had one little guy who wanted to figure out how magnets worked at different temperatures. And so he put this magnet in the refrigerator, and then he waved it over the paper clips. And then he put it in the oven, and he took it out and he tested it. It was completely on his own. Mom and Dad were pretty much hands off. And then another little guy worked on making different blades for his wind turbine that he made. The last thing we're doing with that is trying to do more of the in-depth look at the scientific process in the classroom, more discussion and figuring out how each part works, so that they really have a good concept of each part of the scientific process. So,
and I know in the technology they have every day with Mr. Carrier, they worked on how to make tables and graphs. So again, that wasn't a stressor at home, hopefully.
yeah. And in my classroom, we use Google Classroom for the first time, so that they type something in, and we wouldn't have to print it out for me to check. We'd share it back and forth through Google Classroom, which worked really well.
And then we've had different presentations come to the school. Mikan is coming this month, and they're going to talk about, you know, how the swing affects things, what it takes, the technology that goes into building a bat and things like that. They had a couple geologists come, Mr. Weisbrod and Mrs. Pappenfuss. We had an author, Kevin Lovegreen, come, and the students loved that. And then we ordered sets of his books, and they really enjoyed that. He's a local Minnesota author. And the Weather Academy from Channel 19 is coming, I don't remember the date.
April 17th.
April 17th. There'll
Tuesday.
be presentations at the school, and then there'll be an evening presentation as well.
Yeah, another thing we do is try to include a lot of different field trips that relate to STEAM. The kindergartners go to the Children's Museum. We attended the symphony performance. 5th grade will be attending a play in Lanesboro. Planets and space exploration play at the Turbo, going to St. Mary's and Winona State University to, you know, have their professionals kind of give us some hands-on experience.
Get some ideas of what science careers are out there, technology. And then this year we are piloting a new program in GATE with Gifted and Talented with Mrs. Botcher. The 5th and 6th grade, our PLC approached her and asked her if she would be interested in trying this after they finished up Math Wizards. And Genius Hour is a program that's already been developed, but we're just seeing if it would work for us. The children spend an hour a week, every week, working on some project related to a STEAM area. So it's really wide range. Something that they're passionate about, and they work to create something and then present at the end of the semester. So it's a long range project. You know, if they're very interested in science, they could do an experiment that's long lasting. If they're very into the arts, or, you know, I know of some of the stories I looked at online, one little girl was very passionate about making blankets and then donating them to the homeless shelter. It could be, you know, just any area that they're interested in that they can do a lengthy research and work on that. And I think there's been some ups and downs, and they've only been doing it for what, about a month?
Month and a half.
Yeah. And some of the students picked projects that were a little too short, but this is why we're piloting, to kind of see how we can better prepare if we want to go larger scale next year.
Kids are excited to go down there each
Yeah,
time.
they are.
They're ready to go.
Yeah.
So, any questions?
You mentioned in terms of doing the snapping of fingers and gathering the data and then doing the graphs and stuff. Now, do you do hands-on graphs, or does Mr. Carrier do that then with technology and spreadsheets, or both?
Right now, for that part of it, we did a hands-on graph right in the classroom. Mr. Carrier really focused on graphing for the science fair projects instead.
But then, I mean, you could integrate
We
more
definitely
technology
could.
and
We
get
definitely
that
could.
into
Yeah.
there too.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, it sounds like you've been very creative with ideas, and so it sounds really exciting. It's really fun to hear that. stuff, what kind of equipment is new? Like these sensory tables, did we have those and you're using them in new ways, or is there new equipment that you have as part of this initiative, or are you just trying to
sixth grade, we wouldn't have sensory tables.
Right,
and
this is
things.
that's for the little kids, right?
I don't
So
know. Those
We're
are-
actually looking at this year as what we can purchase for next year for new equipment.
Right.
okay.
We're going at it and dreaming big.
I think the manipulative boxes or manipulative bins are something that the lower grade levels have been working on building and putting together during the last 2 years.
Okay.
So if you walk into their classroom, a lot of them will have a shelf and it's labeled with a different activity that they can work on. And it's things they put together in the last 2 years. And a lot of it is simple materials that, are pretty easy to find.
And Genius Hour, is that a curriculum that costs something, or is that,
No.
it's just out there?
Just an idea that's out there that I heard about and brought to our
Yeah,
PLC, and
I just pulled it up here, it looks interesting.
it is interesting.
Yeah. But I just didn't know whether there was a curriculum that you had to purchase, or whether you can just get ideas from it and then go with it. Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Okay, results of the World Class Workforce Report.
We just got the MDE, the summary of the 2017 that we sent in November. This one, there were some improvements over last year. There's still some work to do. In last year's, we were told that our kindergarten or our preschool readiness goal was not SMART. If you can keep scrolling, yeah, thank you. I know you're taking notes. Going down to the goals, that all students ready for school. Last year, we were told that it wasn't written in SMART format. This year, we were told that it was written in SMART format and it was provided, and that it ties back to the other goals. So they said that that was a definite improvement. Going on to the next part, that third grade literacy, once again, the goals this year was written in SMART format. What we need to look at is that it ties back to that whole goal. So we need to make sure that the results really tie to the goal. The achievement gap, that's one where we really need to make sure that we are specific about which gap we are discussing and which disaggregate groups. And then this one, the career and college ready. I'm not sure what we should have as the goal is not written in their estimation in SMART format, but I'm not sure what data would really indicate that a child is career and college ready. We could use ACT scores if we were sure that all of our students took the ACT. We could use, and so there are some of those things, but is that just because a student doesn't do well on the ACT, does that mean that they're not possibly career ready if their career is to do something that doesn't require the ACT? So that's one of the things that, as the district advisory committee, now that we have this back, that committee will have to dig into this and talk about how the goals could be adapted so they really were written in SMART and we're measuring things that are important to us. I don't want to rewrite a goal just to jump through a hoop for the State Department. I want to say that we've got a goal that really is important to us and important to our students and their success.
Do they have any ideas on how to make them?
There's a committee
Like
right now that has been meeting up at the State Department as far as how to define career and college ready, and they have created copious amounts of information, but they're not really any closer to defining what career and college ready is.
One of the things with the ACT test is it was free for a while when it was mandated by the state, and this year kids had to pay for it, and I don't know if it's the first year, but I would definitely I think as a school we should be encouraging everyone who thinks they might want to possibly ever take the ACT to take it. I think it's beneficial for them, and I think that the school should cover the cost of that. I think we should be encouraging kids to take that, or if there's the other test, the AccuPlacer, right? I think kids should be taking one or the other, or both. I mean, I'm not a counselor, but I would like to see it encouraged for as many kids, and I hate to have people have to pay for it as well. I wish it was provided free of charge.
It's a difficult thing, I think, to set up objective criteria for career and college ready, but if there would be some way to have a test score and or some sort of portfolio, I mean, would there be a possibility of, demonstrated skills or demonstrated, skill sets, or whether it's, something other than a test score that we could use to say this is we're looking for this in a portfolio at this level, make some sort of rubric or a test score. I mean, something to cover the people that do take the test and those that don't. We're looking, I don't know what the state is coming up with, but they're,
something that relates to the career they're looking at getting into, maybe?
We could
or
have a goal about all students completing an internship or a senior project
a
portfolio.
capstone sort of
Right,
thing,
a capstone
something
project.
that could give a lot of flexibility within, something beyond, it's preparing them for beyond high school. It doesn't have to be college.
Right.
Right.
Portfolio would be nice, and they could have things in there like a resume similar to what they want to do, and where they plan on visiting the colleges if they're going to college or working.
Yeah, I mean, you could tie things in like the partnerships things that we're trying to do, and that could become part of their portfolio. It's just an idea. I mean, it's a lot of work to do that, but if they're saying we need more, and we need to, and you're saying we should create it for what we want, then that's maybe what we should.
Right,
see if
but that's,
possible.
just to let you know, that's an area where we made definite improvements, but we still have room to improve. Here with the identified needs, as far as the needs for accountability tests, what we demonstrated as what we needed. Last year, this section didn't get, I think most of it was somewhat connected, and now this year they felt that what we wrote as far as our needs were very clear and connected, and we used the data necessary. So that was a definite improvement. Now hopefully we'll actually, what we put in there as our needs, we are working toward this year, and we are. So hopefully we'll get the results that we want to see. Systems and strategies, this is once again disaggregating the student by groups. They want us to do more as far as disaggregating by the different groups assigned by the state of Minnesota. So that's a disaggregation possibly by race, or by economic status, or by special education status. And we look at our students as our students, and so we don't typically look at them in those little groups, and I guess we'll have to start disaggregating and looking.
Is there a reason they want you to do that? I mean, what's the purpose behind it for them?
The achievement gap. Most of the achievement gap is calculated by the disaggregate groups, and so they want to make sure that if the achievement gap is by the disaggregate group, if you're not really disaggregating your data to see how your groups are doing, how in the world are you going to improve and close those achievement gaps? So I get their point, but they are usually talking about much more diverse metro areas.
Say our
where
school is pretty
much a loaf of Wonder Bread, yes.
You know, and all our kids do well, I think, I mean, overall, we don't have,
Well, we just don't have enough numbers
Yeah.
to bear.
you think.
Well, and
there'd be
even
some-
even adding MNVA, we don't really have much, diversity. So that's one where we're gonna have to really try to find a way to disaggregate the data, but the problem is that we've got some cell sizes that are so small, we can't report them. And then this with evaluations, our teacher evaluation, we submitted our TD&E, and they really felt that that was what we're doing with teacher evaluations is very good, and we need to just improve the evaluation system of the instruction, the curriculum, to match that. And then once again, practices our own technology, and so that's one that the district technology committee, as soon as the survey is done, now at the end of this week, we can schedule a district technology advisory committee, and we can look at how the technology practices can be included in this. And then once again, what we have said as far as the strategies to improve equitable access. If a teacher is, through the evaluation process, deemed not satisfactory, we need to demonstrate that that teacher is not getting, the same students are not given an unsatisfactory teacher the second year. And we haven't really, when we have had a teacher through the teacher evaluation process that has been unsatisfactory, in every case it's been a probationary teacher and that teacher has not been asked back. And so we can guarantee that nobody gets that same unsatisfactory teacher the next year. We just don't have unsatisfactory teachers, so we don't know how, because through the teacher evaluation, the teachers are satisfactory or exemplary. And so that one's kind of, they want a more structured procedure to ensure that nobody gets an unsatisfactory teacher, and we just haven't had to put that structure in place. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
And again, with the size of schools, if there's larger school systems would have multiple teachers teaching the same subject, and they could, but when we have one teacher teaching the one subject, it's kind of difficult.
Right.
And you would think that they would have some leeway there in that circumstance instead of.
They did say that even though you're a small school, you need to have the processes in place. So what they're basically saying is we need to come up with the process even though we might never have to use it.
So you just have to write up something saying that all teachers that are bad we get rid of?
That's what I wrote, and that wasn't good enough. So, because that's,
Well, then they probably.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm going to tell them what we do. And if we've got somebody that's not successful, they don't stay.
But the process needs to say, assuming they're here,
Right.
this is the process to
Right.
guarantee.
Yeah.
Right,
To
and
guarantee it
so
doesn't happen.
Yeah.
we'll need to
So
just
that's all. I
come
mean,
up with that process.
The thing that blows me is at the bottom of each of these sections, she's had to write this in 300 words or less. And I don't know how you communicate some of these sections in 300 words or less.
I write the section the way I would like to, and then I see how many words I have, and then I slash it. Usually, with some of these, I end up with about 900 words. And then I slash it down, and it gets very condensed and concise, which it's kind of like writing poetry.
No, it's like writing 2 tweets.
Okay, perfect.
The whole report though, the whole report is posted on our website, right?
Mhm.
That was the first section. I said
Right.
the report is there. So we need to update that, or at least update it, maybe not on the school website, but in the section of documents that's available, board templates and forms. The last World's Best Workforce report that's posted there is 2014-15. So, I mean, that, on SharePoint, but that's the one, it's not the external facing.
Okay.
But if it could just be the current one there, because it would be nice.
Okay. Yeah, but the current one is on our school website, so it's public facing.
Right. But
Yep, and sure, yeah, we'll update that, sorry, I didn't know it was in SharePoint, so that's.
Well, it's in all the things on the board calendar of events and policy, I mean, a lot of things that are in there, so. Maybe we don't need to put it there, maybe it should just
Right.
be
Say maybe
removed, so
just
that
get
there's
rid of
one
it.
place and we know
Right.
where to go find it. I
It
guess
sounds
that's,
like
Yeah.
they just put it out in a lot of locations and never updated every one of them.
Right,
You didn't
that's
know
why-
which ones are. If you're updating on our website, it's got the most current.
Yeah.
Then, like Michaeline said, maybe eliminate it from the other ones that aren't ones that people are looking for, or looking at.
Because we have just been
Right.
updating it on the main website, because it needs to be public facing.
yeah, it's just for me to go look for something, sometimes I hear it's on SharePoint and then it's like, no, you have to go to the website. So it's knowing where things are, that's all.
Any other questions on that? On the ACT, I just quick, like Mimi mentioned on the cost, I know, because my daughter took the test, we had to pay, but in the past, the state covered that, correct?
The state covered it for 2 years, the state was going to cover it for 1, and then, it got covered for 2 because Pearson had to kick in for it because of the testing debacle. So it was covered for 2 years.
So if
But-
the school were to pay for something like that, it's like, right now, what is it, $62 or whatever it was to take it? And you're looking at what, 20, 30 kids,
No,
or how many
you're
kids?
looking at over 200 because
200 kids?
MNBA.
MNVA.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, I just, to point out, because the question came up, what would be the cost to the school to cover that? So it'd be like 200 times the $62 per pupil unit.
Right, what it's over 2, because I think we're at 100 and, is it 170?
Right there.
I just looked at that today and I can't remember.
12 grand.
Juniors.
Off the top of my head, I didn't look at that.
Okay.
Well, I think there's probably only 10 or 15 that took it in Houston.
Yeah.
So,
But collectively, we'd have to cover everybody, which would be like 12 grand or whatever.
why would we have to cover everybody?
Well, that's what you mentioned.
Well,
they're
I mean,
covering everybody.
we
If the
could-
school, unless you separated them out
Well,
from
we could-
online to brick and
We
mortar.
could decide that,
So that
couldn't
would
we?
be, well, touchy.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how our school is,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if it's not in the program, I mean, we could ask Krent to put it in the budget to figure out a way to pay for it, and then we would cover the cost for our brick and mortar students. I mean, that's how other things work.
No, they just have to be discussions, so. But I
Right.
just want to point out the cost of it, so.
But, I mean, back to that point, the world's best workforce, what Michaeline then was suggesting about a capstone, does that apply to MNBA as well?
There would have to be some, senior project. If it's a goal for this, if we're gonna have that be our goal for world's best workforce, then that is district-wide. And so if we're gonna
The
make a
districts
goal,
include the MNBA.
the district is MNVA as well. And so if we're gonna write that as a goal, then it is overarching, both programs and Summit. So we've got all three high schools included in that goal.
Okay, any other questions on that? I'm sure we have more discussions on it.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, summer programming?
I just have this because, for those of you that look at calendars and you know that summer programming is something that typically gets approved. Last year at this time, when you approved the summer programming, you approved as long as we have Summit Learning Center, summer programming has been approved. And so that's what got approved last year at the board, and so this is just kind of a reminder that we are going to have summer programming. You don't need to approve it because you already have.
Anybody have questions on it? Okay. MNVA, Advisory Office,
Okay, did you
is Angela on?
text Angela or Skype her?
Please stand by. So is Angela gonna be talking about this?
I'll talk about it first, and then if you want to ask questions of Angela, she wanted to make sure that she was here in case you had a question for her. Because it, as she has been the principal of the whole program, she's really been trying to see the best way to reorganize, and as you know, or as a reminder, we have reorganized that office a couple of times trying to find the best way to manage the tasks and the best way to really look at what's going on. So.
Does this need to, I know there's a couple online topics on the agenda. This didn't go to the online committee first? Is there an urgency of time, or can this go to the online committee first? Because I think we're meeting April 19th.
Yes, and so it will, with the reorganization, if you look at the reorganization, there are some new positions listed there. And the new positions would be Dean of Students and a social worker. And if we do want those positions, we really need to post them as early as possible so we can make sure we get the best candidates. And that's the urgency. So this will still be, you're not acting on it tonight. It still will be at the April 19th online meeting. This will be a topic there, but.
And I told you the wrong date. We switched it from April 19th. I think we maybe pushed it out a week or two.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact date.
So look at that, says, if we have to have this posted and talk about it there, we need to get it done sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that's why we're.
Was there a reason we changed it?
It's, yeah, when I looked at my calendar, it's small group contest that night.
Oh,
so-
that's right, we're not having it that
Yeah, I
night.
couldn't make it to it, so.
Is there a time before that we could get a meeting
Well,
in?
and then Josh is a part of that one, and he said the only meeting date that really works is before a board meeting.
Well, I think if you, cause you're gonna have two of them there, you know, you guys, and if Josh can be informed on what the, agenda was, you guys can maybe talk to him and find out what his feelings. I can bring it up to the board on the 19th.
Yeah, because.
I mean, it sounds like we wanna get it through them and back to us for the 19th for approval, correct? Is that what we're saying right here?
Right. And so
if we could get a meeting before that,
online Thursday, that would be the 12th. Would you be able to meet on the 12th?
maybe?
I'm open on the 12th.
Okay, 12th at 5?
I mean, that would be my recommendation, get it.
But to talk through this, currently in the advisor office, there are 7 advisors, and that's in the budget. And in looking at we do have a past contract that we had when we used to have a dean of students in the online world. And then looking at that and adding the cost of living adjustment, and then looking at the average cost of a school social worker in this area. So I did research on Indeed, because Indeed actually tells us that there are other social workers being advertised in the area and what those, what they make hourly. So in figuring out what the costs of those 2 positions are, I knew that by looking at what those three advisor positions cover the cost of the dean of students and the social worker, because the dean of students and the social worker require extra licensure for those positions and extra schooling that is not required for the advisor positions. So that's why the pay is more for dean of students or social worker than it would be for an advisor.
So maybe before the online committee meeting, we could get just a diagram or something, or a Word document showing, like, this is what the advisor, we have 7 advisors, these are what they do.
Okay.
And this is what these other roles are gonna do, because it looks like we're getting rid of a person. So, you know, how can 4 advisors, or 4, what's the top, what do we have, 7 of?
We've got 7 advisors,
advisors.
reducing 3, there would be 4
How can
remaining
4
advisors.
advisors do the work that 7 were doing?
So then, yeah.
That's my
Well,
question.
and then some of the work goes,
To
and
the dean and some goes to the social worker.
some
That's
goes to
what
the
she's just
dean.
asking.
I'm just
Right.
wanna know that,
Right.
cause I mean,
The layout.
yeah,
Right.
to make sure we're covered with everything, and how are those, what's getting passed off from those to the other, and just to make sure that it,
Get all the
Makes
kids
sense.
covered
yeah.
at the end of the day, that's what it's.
Well, this, in looking at this and in looking at the requirements, there's new requirements now for, attendance, graduation requirements, trying to get the engagement.
Well, I'm sure that's what Angela's thoughts are, if we have a
Right.
dean of students, somebody that can be a point of contact or reach out and maybe do something that our advisors haven't done and have some type of backbone there. I don't
Right.
know if that's what her thoughts are,
Oh,
but I think
Would you
that
like
would be
to
part of the
ask her?
conversation.
Well, she'll probably come to the online.
She's gonna be coming to the
committee.
online, you think?
yeah, she'll be coming to the online.
But I mean, I think that would be, part of what you guys would wanna know, correct? Why, what for, how come type of thing.
Yeah, I know, I mean, I have kids in the online school, so it must be advisors. I don't wanna say who reached out to them recently, because it's somebody you know, but there has been an attempt to do some things I haven't seen in the past, because I got an email, and actually I had both kids are in, and one got an email saying, "You're behind, how can I help you catch up?" And the other got an email that said, "Good job."
Oh, we got a different person doing the
One kid
part-time
got in
kids.
trouble for me, and the other one was like, so I know that they were looking at their progress, reaching out and trying to touch, and I thought, well, great, but I'm gonna guess that person is an advisor, must be their advisor. So
It's a part-time
Cause we need to
advisor.
come up with something, as we talked about at the online meeting, to keep these kids.
well, and that email,
Motivate them.
that email hasn't happened in the past. I don't know how
We
in the
just-
loop you are, but
Within the last, 2 months, we just changed who was doing part-time. And so it's a change, and you should have been getting that all along.
okay, yeah, I mean, it was great because that helps the parents. I mean, the teachers obviously would reach out, I think, sometimes, but I mean, I'm not in the system monitoring unless somebody sends me an email or copies me on an email. I don't, see what's happening. So I think just that reaching out, I mean, and honestly, I personally don't care if it's somebody that's an advisor or a dean of students. It's the same
No,
effect to me.
the part-time advisor will remain in that part-time advisor role of reaching out.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, we just need to understand what the difference is in roles and what they need to do.
There's a message there
Are we
that,
streaming again?
I think so.
Okay.
there's a message there that there's potential for possible state funding for the social worker. When will you know that? I know that's not known. When is the,
May 21st.
okay. So,
Usually May 21st.
So we won't know
so
until after.
we need to plan without it, but.
Yes.
We
We need to plan without it.
Yeah.
And if we get it, then there's all kinds of different ways that it's being presented in potential bills. And on the 12th, when I'm up at the Capitol, I know that at 1 o'clock I'll be meeting with Jeremy Miller, Senator Miller, and we're waiting to see when we can get on Greg David's calendar for that day to meet with him. But this is one of the things that I would like to see, this extra funding for
So
this.
is there a way that it has to be written in order for us to get the extra funding, or something that has to be covered? Do we know that yet, or is it just?
No, we don't, but if
Just
we're.
need to get
if
our
we're-
reps to support it.
And if we are listing for a social worker, it would have to be someone, school social worker with that licensure.
Oh, I just didn't know if there was something.
There's
Extra
a
they
there's
wanted
a
to have.
school social work license. It just, BSW doesn't cut it. You need to have the actual school social work license, and LCSW doesn't even cut it.
Okay. So, more on that, the next one. Correct?
Oh, yeah.
Did anybody have any questions for Angela, since she's monitoring them?
Hi, Angela.
Yeah, she's listening.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you,
Old
Angela.
business, items for discussion and approval of the 2019-2020 calendar. It's been discussed for a while.
And you either approve the tight or the loose, and then when you approve the tight or the loose, it would be, you're basically approving the on-site and online tight, or the online on-site loose. There are some differences between the calendars. The differences are on the half days for curriculum, the workshop days, and QComp days. Those are the dates that sometimes work better on different dates. On-site, the half days are on Wednesdays, because that works better for the staff as far as getting that work done. And then the workshop days at the end of quarter, we've put those either on a Friday or a Monday. So the teachers are here for the workshop day on a Friday or a Monday, but then the kids get a 3-day week. And but for online, it works better to put some of those days together, so that they might have a workshop day and their half day back to back, so that they can, because everyone's coming together and staying overnight anyway, then they've got more condensed time to actually get something.
And that's on the tight one?
That's on both loose and tight. The difference between the loose and the tight, the loose has a solid 2 weeks at Christmas. The tight has a week and a half. The loose has an extra day before Thanksgiving. The tight does not. The tight gets out basically right at the very end of May, and the loose goes 1 week into June.
Are we voting
They
on
both
this tonight?
start the same day, September 3rd, and then it's the days off in the middle that are different. This is the on-site calendar, where blue is for QComp, and then there's a light green in there that barely shows up. I'm sorry, because like December 4th, if you look, it's a light green, and you can barely see it.
Are we voting on this tonight?
If you want to, or it's for 1920.
Mhm.
Or the
Well, you ready to vote on it?
2019,
Do you guys have
2020, because 1920 sounds like we're going back in time. But,
Are we ready to vote on this tonight, everybody?
Yeah, I
Any more
have
questions?
one more, random question that is way too late in this process, but where is any of the thought for early starting school before Labor Day? Either at the state or locally, or in your circles, or anywhere else?
there are some schools in our area that have petitioned the state to start early, and we still have to petition the state to start early.
Okay.
And in our area, there hasn't been a large push to do that. I don't want to misspeak, but I think in our area there are who. I know Rochester has one school that does the 45-15, so they basically have year-round school, and there's one school in Austin, one of their schools, so the whole district doesn't, but one of their schools does 45-15. So there are getting to be some changes in calendars, but right now, if you want to not start on September 3rd in 2019, you need to petition with the state, because we still have that school must start after Labor Day decree.
How do, like, those of you who are parents, Tom, Amy, what, you know, how do you think parents feel about waiting till Labor Day? Are they ready? Are you ready for the kids to start school?
A lot of them need to, because they want their kids that are going to be in 4-H and stuff, and they're going to be
have the
state fair and they're showing, so
Okay.
they would miss that time, so they want to be there when everybody else is starting.
Yeah. You just want it all.
Yeah, I mean, livestock encampment, they're up there for almost a whole week in Minneapolis, and then, you know, it takes a little bit of recovery after that, and I think that's just a week before school starts. So, and I think a lot of families like to go away on vacation too, so.
And that's been the biggest
Yeah, I'm just
question.
wondering, would people rather start earlier, end earlier? You know, it seems like there's a, you know, or push the school year out into June, or get done in May. You know.
Those schools that do international baccalaureate IB programs, they're usually the schools that petition to start early, and they start early in August, because all of the IB tests are the end of April, and so as soon as they're done with their IB tests, they're done for the year. Because they don't really feel there's much of a need to keep going, because they've done their culmination.
And we're not gonna be driven by that. I don't know how many of the colleges are, you know, they tend to start, you know, how many of the 2- and 4-year colleges are moving their start date up. I mean, where I work, I mean, nobody who graduates from high school can take classes right away.
Right.
Because we're halfway into the summer term already. So, you know, there are students that want to move right through, and so it's just one of those, it's a moving target right now.
You know, when the state gets out first week in May.
Yeah.
So,
They do get out that early, so I think UWL is later.
yeah, they're usually a week later.
But
And St. Mary's gets out the beginning of May,
Yep.
but then they do a May term, and so then the kids can, instead of a J term, so the month of May is another class.
it might be something to add to a survey for the parents in the future, for, you know,
Yeah.
just to kind of take a read.
Yeah, we're starting school right away.
So right now, it's kind of a moot point for this decision.
And as far as surveying, and with the voting, I did not know how many were online and how many were on site of the teachers that voted, but I know that 60% favored the loose. But then there were 30 parents and or students that voted here on site for the ramp up to readiness night, and then they voted for the tight. And so that information does not help you with your decision at all, because you basically have 2 conflicting votes, almost equal in nature.
Well, I would suggest we go with the loose, simply because we've got the tighter schedule. I think if we're gonna, I mean, the 18-19 is a tight schedule.
18-19, the current schedule we're on this year, 17-18 is tight, 18-19 is tight. We actually haven't done a loose for a long time.
A couple years ago, we had 2 weeks for Christmas, I think, but it doesn't happen very often. So if there are people out there besides me that are in favor of having 2 weeks over Christmas, I say we give it to them every now and then. I mean, I can be persuaded the other way, but it sounds like a high percentage of our teachers would enjoy it, and I don't see why we should.
The only time we do it is when it's Christmas and New Year's are smack dab in the middle of the week.
Is there any opinion as to which is more educationally sound? I would have,
Yeah, throw that in there.
I had to throw that in, just,
I was waiting, I had it marked here, Mike's gonna ask.
well, I don't know that it's, you know, it's, the end of the year is always the end of the year. I would think the end of the year is worse on a loose schedule than it is on a tight one, but it's still the
Yeah.
end of the year.
I mean, that's the only,
You are going to, it's a difference of, but right now, looking at it with, December, January, there's the loose. The difference is, with this one, you'll say goodbye to the kids December 20th, and you won't see them again until January 6th. And so you're actually talking about 15 days before you see the children again. With the tight calendar, you will say goodbye to the kids December 20th. No, you don't need to go.
Oh,
Okay. You'll say goodbye to the kids December 20th, but you'll see them again January 2nd, because they come back for that Thursday, Friday. So then that's a difference of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days. So you'll still not see them for 11 days. So it's a 4-day difference. However, you also have to look at, so there is that gap of knowledge. You will definitely get that. But then you also, you have the gap of knowledge with the loose calendar. You see them into June, and then you don't see them again until September. And so then instead of having 13 weeks, you have only 12 weeks in the summer. And so
it's a wash.
It's 6 1
Yeah,
half,
right.
isn't it?
Exactly,
And-
it's kind of a
and-
wash.
it's a wash, and I'm here 260 days no matter what. So it really,
Well, let's go 45-15 then.
Yeah.
I would be fine with that.
I'm game with that one.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other people are game with that, Michael.
Yeah, we
Just
We
be,
got 2 votes.
Is that a
actually,
motion, Mike?
the 45-15 is the most educationally sound calendar.
well, anyway,
So,
I don't have an opinion on this. I mean, I have lots of opinions, but I could go either way.
Gary,
Well,
your thoughts
that's
on
just it. There's pros and cons to both calendars, so
You
it
don't
is
care?
a board
No,
decision.
it sounds like Mimi's proposing we go loose. I would agree with that.
I mean, a change to the change, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I'm whatever you
Is that a
think of the
motion?
system there, so.
Sure, it's a motion.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Did you get that?
To approve the loose.
Yep.
Yes.
So a motion, we have a
second
second,
with
Gary? Discussion, further discussion on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Perfect.
So I am
Nope, we have a
intrigued,
chance, maybe.
I am intrigued by the 45-15. I mean, how do we have further discussions about it? Can one of the groups, do we have a committee that can look at it?
District Advisory Committee.
Can we add that to their discussion? I mean,
Sure.
I don't know what it,
I'd like to find out how
I'm
the
sure it
other
causes
schools.
problems, but I don't know how
Yeah, it
big
will
they
cause a
are.
lot of
Oh, yeah.
problems.
You know,
I can ask,
How does that work?
Dave, I can ask Dave
Yeah,
Krenz and
It's
Michael
like high
Munoz
school.
what the
Yeah.
information they have.
so
'Cause
do you
those are
go
the
all summer then, or you
You
go?
go 15 weeks, and you go 45 days.
45 days and then,
And then a break, and then another, and then,
and actually you get an
6
extra,
weeks, 2 weeks,
I
6
think
weeks,
during
2
the
weeks.
summer,
3 weeks.
you actually get 20 days off during the summer instead of just 15.
yeah, you get a little longer.
You get a little longer, but then you can actually do, on those 15 days off, you can actually do summer school in the winter, and so then the kids that do need the intervention,
You're getting it
instead
right
of
away.
15 days off, they can
Instead of
come,
waiting for so
and-
long,
right, they can come in and get intervention mid-year.
they can stay on top of it instead of falling way farther behind and then
Yep.
trying to catch up.
It's really, as far as educationally sound, it is, but it would be a huge cultural change, it would be a professional change, it would be a contract rehaul.
It would be a lot of budget concerns,
And-
all sorts of things.
And I'm not sure that that's something that the online could do at all with enrollments, and So it would just
Yeah,
be
because you don't
something
have
that
a
we
lot
would
of
have, but once again, you can do some things in one building. You can do the 45-15 in one building and have another program with a different calendar. And we've got the different calendars already, so it is something that we could do on-site and not online, because that would, the 45-15 would really not be a way to increase enrollments online at all.
No. That would almost.
So it's similar to a college quarter system,
Trimester.
except a lot of those schools, then they have 4 quarters, but kids only do 3, and they don't do the summer.
No, they would
But
do like a
these-
trimester, if you're gonna do.
Is there ways
Or
that
is
you
it
can
is
do?
like a quarter, 45 days is like a quarter.
It's a
yeah.
quarter, and so, but they have to do 4 quarters a year. You don't get a quarter off. So, yeah, they would be going during
I
summer,
don't
and
know,
I could get, Austin's calendar, and I can get Rochester's calendar, and,
Are there
bring it
equal
in.
breaks in the summer too then?
I
Well,
think there's
15
20
days.
days off in
20
the
days
summer.
off only through the summertime, if you wanna consider it, yeah.
Yeah, because there's 365 days in the year.
Yeah. So you have 20 there, and you have 50.
Still, huh?
Yeah,
Haven't
yeah,
changed.
still.
366.
I mean, I can see where it would be enhanced education. Because like I said, those kids that maybe fall behind, instead of having to wait for another few months to get any help for summer, they could jump in right away and get caught up and then maybe continue on.
Yeah,
You know, you know what I mean, instead of,
oh, it's
Falling
a
through.
cool way of looking at things, but it would, there's a lot that
That breaks the paradigm. Is
it totally breaks the paradigm, and we've got a lot of procedures, processes in place that would all have to just kind of.
well, that's a good discussion thing. Okay, so, moving right along, any other, okay, good. Library program reduction?
Okay. This was on a board discussion item last meeting, but it was about program reductions, and we were talking about one program and never got to this one. So I put it on its own board discussion for approval, because it didn't get acted on last time. So it's just, right now, we've got a librarian, I think she's 1 hour a day in the library, and so it would just be removing that 1 hour. I contacted the other area schools, and Crescent's got a para-professional running their library. Caledonia's got a paraprofessional. Spring Grove has a paraprofessional running their library. Our paraprofessional that runs this high school library is also the person that works with Selco. And so she's had all the Selco training. So she's doing all of the Selco correspondence when a student wants to get a book from Selco, even if it's a student from the elementary. It's our high school paraprofessional that facilitates that, not our librarian. So it by reducing this wouldn't really change any of the service that's being provided. But as far as what the media center could be in either building, I would really like the district technology committee and the district advisory committee to start kind of dreaming as far as what would we like to see, what kind of, if we're going to get new books, what kind of new books should we be getting? Because right now the para does reading, and she's basically selecting the books. And then in the elementary libraries, you found out that with the book fair, the Scholastic book fair, the teachers selected the books. And so that selection process is already going on without the librarian.
So is this staffing in the high school and the elementary school? or not?
She's the librarian for the district, and so she's supposed to be managing both the high school and the elementary library. And the reason for that is because she had the library license, but the library license is no longer required. And so that's why it's basically been a figurehead, and we don't really need to have that anymore.
So, do we have a motion to approve and further discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Second round, okay, discussion? Michael, anybody have anything to say?
No, we talked about this,
Yeah.
well, I guess, was I at the last meeting, or I called you and we talked about this? I mean, you know, I think it was under, you know, we didn't support or utilize that license enough when we had it. We didn't, you know, dream big enough for our libraries. We're not gonna lose any services, so, yeah.
Anybody else have any? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Reduction of tenure staff.
We have, I'll let Ann pull it up. Two, this is never pleasant. The first, reaching your academic potential is an elective. It is not, it is not a board-approved requirement for graduation, and somehow or another it had become, or it had been treated as such. And that is not the case. And so, looking at the fact that we don't have to funnel every 9th grader into this class, nor do we have to funnel every new student into this class, we know the enrollment for that class is going to drop because most kids didn't understand why they were being put in the class. And so that Deirdre Diggins is the teacher that currently teaches it, and we would be reducing her contract from the 1.0 FTE down to 0.25. She is our Latin teacher. She is a fantastic Latin teacher. We do not want to lose her as our Latin teacher, but we also can't afford to have somebody who has a course load or a student load that qualifies for a 0.25 contract getting a full contract either.
Is there a different class that she can?
She is just certified to teach Latin.
So how could she have been teaching reaching your academic?
Reaching your academic potential, because it is an elective, is not tied to any STAR report curriculum class.
So is there any other classes like that that she could teach?
That students sign up for, any other
Yeah.
elective? That
So
are-
it hits close to home. Both my kids are in Latin, and they've really enjoyed her as a teacher. I'm just gonna say that. So I think Noah took 2 years of Latin, and Lily is in. I'm gonna guess she'll take it 2 years from her as well. She's a wonderful, wonderful teacher. So, you know, I'm just wondering, I don't know how well that works, and I guess it's something I don't need to be concerned about. But is there a way that if she was teaching this class, she could teach this elective class in
Most of our
instead?
electives are tied to curricular areas. This is just one of those. It's a skill building or a it's a class about study skills, and there isn't a license for study skills. As long as you have a high school license, they're assuming that any high school teacher can teach a study skills class. This is the only one like that we have. The other electives are in our STAR report that we have to file with MDE. The other electives are tied to specific licensure areas, as far as business or technology or family consumer science. So those are license specific, this is the only non-license specific class we have. And we looked at that too, because with the seniority list, if you're reducing someone with tenure, you have to make sure that there's no one below that person on the seniority list that is teaching a class that this person is qualified to teach. And so your question is very valid, because we had to look at that first. Are there other classes that we're offering that someone else is teaching that Deirdre with her high school license could teach? And there isn't. And since there isn't, we have to reduce her. But we do want to retain her for Latin.
We just need to get more students for
Yes,
signing up for
everybody
Latin.
sign up for Latin. It's a great class.
It is a great class.
It is a great class. The kids are
I think I did for
singing
like 4 years.
a duet this year in Latin for a small group. But so are all of our languages like that? Just out of maybe you don't know the answer, but are they? We offer 3-4 languages.
Spanish is full.
Okay.
Spanish, we looked at those numbers. Spanish does warrant the 1.0. German is already just a part-time. She's already only hired at a part-time. And French, our French teacher also has a math license. And so Kathy teaches some French and a lot of math.
So basically, we'd have to increase her student load. So as long as we retain her
And
and we increase her student load, then it would change.
this is also, we can always increase her contract. So if a ton of people sign up for Latin, her contract grows. If a ton of people just decide, yeah, we still want to keep RIAB, we can increase her contract. But it's one of those where we need to, this is always one of those where you don't want to overstaff. We've got to protect ourselves.
So RIAP will remain an elective that students can sign up for.
But it's all an elective.
I understand.
Yeah, but it's not a,
But again,
before they were calling it a required elective, and I said that's an oxymoron.
Okay.
And then the other one is the one we just worked with Shelley. You already decided not to submit, you voted not to submit the high school ITA grant. We just reduced the library program. Once again, Shelley had to been here a long time. And so you would assume that she was number 1 on the seniority list. And in fact, when she retired, she was. But after you retire, you're off the seniority list. Then if you come back in, you are at the bottom of the seniority list. And so Dave Runnigan is actually near the bottom of the seniority list too, back on it because he came back after retirement. But there's nobody for her to bump because everybody's above her.
So on this reaching your academic potential, required elective, is there, I mean, how does Deidre or the principals feel? Is it a beneficial curriculum for some students?
Oh, for some students, sure. And I think we still will have some that will take RIAP.
But I think even more than will take it, there's probably a place for an advisor or a social worker to recommend,
kids, yeah.
to specifically recommend that for a student with weak study skills. I can tell you,
So it
what
may
I see
change.
at the post-secondary level is students that don't know study skills. So it has to be a valid curriculum that is beneficial, not just, but I think there's a place for it if it's a good curriculum.
And it still will be offered, but it's not going to be one where we're going to slam every kid into it.
But you can still
But that could
suggest it.
change.
Oh, no.
But I think I don't like Lena saying that. She's right. I mean, you will, if we make these changes, say they do happen with the online program, there may be some more pushes of these kids that require that.
And then we could expand.
Then we could expand this again. So
Right.
it's not like it's dead in the water. It's just at this moment in time, we don't have enough students to maintain this at this
Because
level.
it's not required.
Because it's
You
not a
can't require it.
required
Right.
course.
Are
But
you
down the
saying
road,
that
it could be changed.
at 25% is that covering the Latin plus potential for this RIAP.
Yep, the 25% is, the 0.25 is, it will cover everyone that's currently in Latin right now with some potential growth. We're hoping for some growth in Latin, and we're hoping some more kids take Latin in the middle school. And so the 0.25 covers that and maybe a small section of a RIAP. So
if
then
we get more, then you just push her.
Correct.
push her to 0.5, push her to 0.75. I don't know if we'll ever get to 1.0, but we could.
Yeah.
It's just,
Obviously never.
It just kind of, if you can keep her long enough to find out if that's what's gonna happen.
I'm
Well,
sure
and
Angela was
I
having
think
discussion
what
with us.
Michaeline is talking about too is, you know, if we're setting up this new social worker and dean of students, maybe this RIAP could be a tool that they use to, you know, maybe that could be part of.
It's a possibility.
A
I mean,
tool,
there are
yeah.
a lot of electives, there are a lot of things for different kids, but I'm just saying, I see a need for that, where, at the
And
level.
a
I could
concern
probably
is,
use it.
a concern as a parent that I have is just that, you know, I feel, well, I guess in Houston we only had Spanish, right? But I mean, we cut Chinese. I feel like we're just going down this path where we're cutting, and you know, our kids don't even have a language on site anymore, and I hate when we take away the online options for them as well.
and this isn't taking away Latin at all.
I know, but I hope we can continue to do all those languages. Yeah.
More languages the better. Okay, so now that we've had our discussion, before we,
Yep. The language I would like to add online is ASL. But K-12 does not have the curriculum for that.
can we outsource it? Anyway, that's another discussion. So, we have a motion for the reduction of tenure staff.
I'm just ASLing you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So, Mike Lane made the motion?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No? Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Ron, second?
Second.
Second? Discussion?
I think we discussed
Yes,
this
we
one.
did. All in favor?
Are we doing these as separate? We
Have
need
these
to do these
teachers been
separately?
told about these reductions? Have they informed already?
I think we can do them, yes, they've
should-
both been
You've
taught.
talked about it.
Okay, and so, a point of clarification then, we're putting two tenured instructors on unrequested leave, but then we are immediately offering a 0.25 contract to one of them? Or how is this working exactly?
It's a reduction of contract for one tenured staff from 1.0 to 0.25.
Then that's one motion, I think.
That's one motion, and then, so we can do this in,
2
Two
seconds.
separate.
yep,
Okay, so we'd have a motion for the reduction from 1.0 to 0.25. That's
so
the first
Ron, is that
motion.
your motion?
Yeah.
Okay,
Do we have a second?
Second.
We already discussed it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Second one is,
the,
Motion to place, Shelley on unrequested leave.
right,
Was that a motion, Mike?
Yes.
motion by Michaeline,
Second.
second by Gary. Discussion?
Yeah, so my discussion is usually when we put probationary teachers and so forth on leave in June, there's a form and it's a roll call vote. And so I'm wondering if we need to roll call vote these, or is tenured staff different than probationary staff? I mean,
no, you're
normally always,
actually right, we probably should, we just haven't done this, yeah. We
I mean, we
should
usually
rotate.
have the,
Yeah,
and it should be a form so that we know that the teacher has been
Notified.
notified. So really, the first one is a reduction in position, it's not
Right.
really an unrequested
leave, right.
leave, but the second one
Is a
needs that.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to keep it straight so we don't have to go back and do it again.
Good job.
Oh,
Thank you.
thanks.
That's why I asked.
So we can,
Inform
So we
Gary.
made a motion, we have second. So now we do roll call.
Mhm.
I,
Aye.
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 I
Okay, next thing, contract approvals.
And we'll need to do each of these, approve each one separately as well,
Okay,
but they're
so,
lumped together for expediency.
we're all good to go. We had discussion with them?
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
That doesn't mean these guys know.
Oh, okay.
Do we have a motion to approve the principal's contract?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Michael. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the professional contract?
So moved.
A motion?
Second.
Second by Ron. Discussion?
Yeah, I just have, I actually had the question on, for all of these, are they, like, when do they take effect? Are they retroactive to the
These
same?
are all retroactive to
to-
July 1, 2017.
July 1, 2017?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Good question.
thank you.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay. We have a motion to approve the supervisory confidential contract.
So moved.
Motion,
Second.
second by Ron. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. New business items for discussion and approval. First quarter board pay, everybody had an opportunity to look that over. Is there any questions, concerns?
Did you change mine?
Well, I can't change the
Okay.
PDF, but I will make note of it and submit that correctly to,
I had 3 meetings one day, and she's got them
Your
at,
calendar.
it's 2. It should be one
yeah,
meeting.
this one will be
Should be
merged,
one.
like Mike Galene's, or Mimi is I
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Michael Lee, what a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, policies for first reading. Anything you wanna bring up, Michael Lee?
No, Ron's got stuff.
Oh,
he wants to
Ron,
bring up.
Ron! Sorry, Mike. You should have a little note here.
And
Ask
so
Ron.
you know that the principals have been sent the policy 806, and so they're looking at it to see if there's anything in there that they feel needs to be changed.
Yeah, I guess the only question, I just, when I was reading through them, I just was questioning, in the one part where they talked about fire and they have to move them to a safe place, it's 50 feet from the building. It just seems awfully close to me to.
Well, and actually, I think what we've talked about is that the high school, if they need a safe place, goes to the elementary. If the elementary needs a safe place, they come to the high school. So it is more than 50 feet, or if,
Does that need to be rewritten on there?
no,
No,
that's
at
just
least.
in our, that's in our,
At least, okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does say at least,
It-
I will admit that.
it's in our procedures, that the crisis procedures that the principals are looking at as well.
which you will approve in the summer.
Yes,
And then like fire
What will
drills
approve
and
in
all.
the summer?
The crisis plans for each.
the
site.
crisis plans for each
School.
principal submits the crisis plans to be as an addendum to this.
There's
So-
there's the question. The addendums are the
We do
plans,
have
which are
addendums
separately
for all the
approved.
different scenarios of crisis sign. Is that
Crises,
Latin?
crises,
sign?
I didn't take the class.
crises,
Crisis,
crises.
not crazy.
Was there any other comments there, Ron?
No, I think that was it.
So so this is first reading anyway. So the addendum, because this refers to the addenda, so it would seem like if we approve this, we're approving
The addendum.
the addendum as well, but the addendums are acted on separately, so we
Yep.
probably need to make note of that next meeting.
Should we change it so we address them both at the same time? Would that be more efficient?
We, in looking at the crisis handbooks, because those have sometimes needed to change after May, legislative sessions, it makes sense to approve those before the school year begins, so
Yeah,
that.
but could we move this policy then to the
Yeah,
same
why
time?
don't we
is
just
what I'm
move this
saying.
Move this policy?
policy?
That's what I'm saying, move this policy to the same timeline, so you're approving not only the policy, but also,
Now that we've had a first reading, can we just carry it over until we get done?
Except they also need to know that what their handbooks are creating, and there's the conundrum. The handbooks have to match the policy. So if the policy gets changed, then their handbooks have to get changed. The policy has to come first, and then the handbooks. So you're not going to ever approve them at the same
Same time.
meeting.
Okay.
this is just a question.
Yeah,
Okay, so, read them.
I had a question under the policy 101,
okay.
the status of school for under contracts.
Mhm.
I read under there, and we enter contracts with like La Crescent or Caledonia or Rushford Peterson for the sports, and does that come under there anywhere? I can't really see that.
Those are sports,
Or that-
Those are co-op
Those
stuff.
those are
cooperatives.
cooperatives.
So that'd be different.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see it fitting in here, and that's why I was wondering how that, because,
That's not really a contract as much as it is a co-op agreement.
yeah, just its agreement.
Yeah.
This would be like contracts with school districts, like for special, don't we have
We already
students, don't we have
With
students?
I want
go
the
to-
head and stuff.
Well, no, like Faribault
we
or
had-
some of the other places, isn't that an agreement that would fall under this?
Um,
The ability of the district to enter into.
That I'm not sure would be,
I think they
that's
need
the
more
other governmental
purchasing.
agencies.
I
That,
think they need more purchasing
right,
Oh, okay,
and for services and things like that.
and HVET is a service, so.
Well, then you get four as the employment contracts too. see.
Well, and
So-
those are the, yeah,
Yeah.
and Region 5, the contract we have with Region 5.
That's, I was just,
Yeah.
when I read it, it came to me that, oh, we're missing this contract in here. So
And it's a co-op
it's one,
agreement.
it's called agreement. Just clarification. that's all.
Yep.
Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Announcements, foreign events,
From
SSC Regional.
Southeast
Facility.
Service Co-op, we'll have a regional facilities management meeting, April 17th, from 9 until 11 in the morning at Rushford. But any
Yeah,
school board members
it's like on
were
a,
invited.
what day is that?
Buildings and grounds, the, Tuesday.
Yeah.
Business manager, superintendent, principals, and so if
you know what the
anyone.
whole discussion is, what the.
They're going to
focus-
be looking at cyber insurance, they're going to be looking at, things to be aware of if you're doing new construction, things to be aware of if you're doing remodeling construction, any type of construction, things to be aware of. They've got a section for business managers, they've got a section for, governance, they've got a section for, superintendents, and then the buildings and grounds person as well.
The only thing is, I read on there said that cyber insurance that you just talked about again, is that something that we as individual schools will have different insurances, or are they looking at?
Southeast
There's a
Service
state-
Co-op has, does have a new contract with a cyber insurance firm. When Winona Insurance, now it's the, what's their new name?
Is that something that we have, that we
It's-
need to?
The WA group, because they bought, an insurance firm up in the cities. But our insurance provider is looking into what a bid for cyber insurance would be for us as well. So, we will have that number for you, so we can look at what the cyber insurance is through Southeast Service Co-op and what the cyber insurance would be through, our insurance provider, EMC. Is it gonna be something that's going to be worthwhile to us? I don't know. But I won't know unless I go, so I will be attending. And I've seen the Rushford School, but.
Why don't we can't we send somebody from UNESCO, go check that out for us?
Yeah, good idea.
Well, it is, I mean.
Yeah, it is. It's a dang good idea, just have them go and find out if it's cost effective. If it's not gonna bring anything to the table. Okay, then we have meeting and committee updates. We had a marketing meeting prior to this. Kind of come up with a few suggestions on what we want to start working on. I think Corinne's got them written down.
We're going to talk to Dependable Solutions about possibly putting something on the school wireless. So if any student is here and Snapchatting, it automatically puts the Houston Public Schools frame on their Snapchat.
Have any other schools are utilizing that? So
And so what will that do?
just for marketing.
Oh,
It's a marketing thing.
And looking at, right now, the main page on our website is updated with a Java script that is cumbersome. So we're gonna talk to Dependable about how to update that in a way that is more doable. We're going to come up with a calendar, and within the calendar we're going to put in those things that we're already doing as far as marketing, putting in when we are sending out education matters, putting out when we have Fillmore County Journal full page, the full page ads that go in Fillmore County Journal. And then on the off weeks, we can make sure that we're possibly sending other things to Ellen at the banner to make sure that that's getting in there. I'm going to contact Ascentech about the TV channel, the public access channel, to see if the school, it's supposed to be for the school and the community, to see what access the school can get to that community channel as well, to see what we can put on that channel, to see if there's some things that we can even stream. It would have been cool to stream parts of the science fair and to do little interviews with kids and have them explain their science projects and put that on public access. And then a lot of other communities have a digital sign, so I'm going to ask them if they've ever thought about putting on a digital sign and saying that we would give them information to put on their sign too. And then
who would have the digital?
It doesn't make sense for the school to get a digital sign because there's not the traffic down here.
Don't quote me.
Oh, don't quote you. Okay.
There's a
According
large,
to somebody.
maybe 5,000 or 6,000 cars. There's thousands of cars that drive by every day on 76. Don't quote me on the number because I don't know for
The
sure.
sign in La Crescent, the La Crescent Lions Club put that one up.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
Do you know how much that costs?
The one in the Lions in Waynesboro are looking at putting up one when I was at one of their meetings.
So would the Lions
But-
in Houston think about,
But your thing on those signs, you can't put them on 76. Now, La Crescent seat is way over because it's got to be
off the
way.
main drag.
We
It can't
couldn't
be on
put
a
one
state
down there
highway.
on Cedar
Yeah.
because it's on 14. You just have to be.
It'll be off their
Yeah.
easement, which is the edge of the building, as I found out here recently.
yes,
So it would have to be past the frontage of these buildings. So you could put it on like the side of JT's to the far right.
Yeah.
Or
On the
something
library property.
in, oh yeah, where those trees are.
The library could put it there.
Where the
It's-
bank,
it's
where
there.
the bank sign is, they have that thing down below. You could have
The library
Oh,
will
yeah.
put up, we did put up the marquee one that we change, and school can advertise on that end.
Could you put it like below the, like maybe it's at the bank where they have their temperature and all that?
Well, see, the bank used to have one there. Well, I was on the library board, I says, that's when we got it, and Ace at that time had the one up there for, Verizon, and they took that down on the pole too, because we wanted to get one, then we put ours just on the building.
On the library.
But that's, like the Crescent one, I mean, that's why it's way up by the
The quick
Quick
trip.
Trip up there, it's not
And the
down
other
by-
one's up farther on the boulevard too, so it's probably off the edge of the right of way.
Yeah,
Is what it
can't
has to
be
be.
on one, so, unless it's,
Doesn't Ace have some room on the west end of their property there too?
Where
well,
they got the
had one,
bench.
they had one sign there,
Yeah.
one.
There's a lot of places we could put it, oh, Mr. Lion.
Yeah,
But no, Lions couldn't put it there. It'd have to be that
business.
entity that puts it there, yeah, the business can.
So the Lions can only put it in public property,
Yeah.
like land
Like the
that the city
library.
has.
A possibility, we could, let the city put it up for that. There's something on that, so that, but that's like the Crescents is, but they are good advertising. They're catchy, put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we talked about getting a school Facebook page.
The library one, we should look at maybe utilizing them, or I don't know that we've ever used it for anything.
They put stuff up all
Do
the,
they?
they're pretty
Yeah,
on top
there's
of the
always
schedule.
something.
They might have the after prom thing like these things going on.
So I don't see it.
The thing about the it's great, but you can only put maybe, 2 or 3 events. And with the sign, you know, if you had one of those electronic ones, you could put
Yeah,
15
change it up
different
on-
things up there and have them rotate through or whatever.
This meeting was just more of a brainstorm meeting, so if you guys have ideas or thoughts, share them with us, or send them, you can send them to me and I'll
Yeah, we
lab
didn't
for the
even
next meeting.
get to writing a goal because we had to figure out what we had and start
Yeah.
trying to do stuff first and then create the goal as far as, okay, how do we want to really spearhead? Because with marketing, you can't just do it in one area or on one medium. It needs to, you need to blitz.
Where we are on signage now, is that part of marketing?
Signage would be part of marketing.
Where are we at on that?
Isn't that facilities?
Yeah, that's already being,
Yeah.
Well, it's both, but
Yeah.
where are we at on it?
yeah, that's,
We didn't talk
That's-
about it.
That's spring. And
that's
I-
springtime is when he's putting that up.
Right,
Spring is when it's, I don't know where he's at as far as making them, but
he is in the process of making them, but I think we have to get the snow to stop first.
3 to
Do you have
6
any-
on Monday.
Do you have any power there?
good connections.
I could work
About the
on
closest
mobile
one here.
I'd make a comment on the one in terms of, putting it in the Fillmore Journal and stuff. We got the full page in there, and I can't remember where I was at, but somebody says, well, your school is great, it was top 15 from that, and they picked it out of the Fillmore Journal.
Yeah. Well, we're finding out that we have this opportunity in the Fillmore, and then, you know, looking at utilizing the banner was one of the things that was discussed, and using when we're not doing the other things. And then that's once a month, Fillmore,
Is once every, yeah.
right? And then the Insight is once every quarter. And then the banner, we could utilize that. And then the website, it seemed to us in the meeting that everybody kind of has their own thing as far as the schools. We feel like it should be all interconnected in a better way. You know, and there's some activities, Gwen was saying, like, there's a basketball
Facebook.
page or something, and there may be a wrestling one, and maybe this, but they should somewhat interconnect. So people, if they want to find other things, they can click to them to, link them.
So when the van goes out, wherever it goes, we should have one of those big magnets that has the phone number or something, the website. I mean, it says it's Houston Public Schools, it's got our logo, but ought to emblazon the website address and the phone number. You're
Oh,
driving
that's a good
around
idea.
for meetings or driving
Add
kids
that to our
around.
list to make it happen. I don't know why
Can't
we'd
you get
have
those
to.
magnetic things? Don't
Oh,
they?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've got the magnet ones where it says this vehicle stops at train crossings.
We can take that off.
I mean, that's another, if you're brainstorming, there's an idea.
No, that's a good idea. 'Cause
I don't know
if
what
they're-
those cost, but
Well, I don't think it'd be that expensive, I wouldn't think, to put on something.
might be a little gaudy, has to be tasteful. A little bit tasteful.
Mhm. but yet show stocking.
That's right.
Okay, well, if you have ideas like Michaeline's, let us know. So, meeting, that was that one, that's all we had, right?
No,
Except-
finance too.
And finance.
Oh.
You want me to go?
Well, it's as far as marketing,
Oh,
I did want to also, for those of you that have not seen this, in the lacrosse trib, Zach Schneider is Wrestler of the Year for the lacrosse trib. And so that is something that we need to publicize, and there's not the article here, but then, and Noah Carlson is our state AAA winner, which is also phenomenal. So we've got great kids doing great things. So
well,
we
the
really,
science fair.
we need to market them.
And the Winona paper had a good article about Alex Townsend, and it gave the schools a good
Yeah.
report too.
Oh, the above and beyond.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, he's a great kid too. It's gonna be tough to see this senior class go.
Should have a place on our front page that says that great kids doing great things and feature these kids.
Yeah, yeah, on our website,
Yeah, we've got the accolades. We need to add to them.
yeah.
Okay, finance,
Finance.
sorry.
Finance met a week or two ago. I had to pull up my notes. So we reviewed the minimum fund balance in that policy that we had, and everyone was in agreement that we could keep it as is, but we had some discussion about what would be the maximum cost to us if something were to happen in the middle of the year, and Corinne was gonna get some numbers for, it was unemployment or something like that that we were concerned about. So we don't quite know what those numbers are, but we're gonna find that out. So then that'll just help us be more comfortable in what our fund balance percentage is. We reviewed our current budget for this year, and going off memory, I wanna say it's like $15,000 positive. We maybe started, I'm gonna throw out the year 60,000 because that's always my number. We were up a little higher, around 60, and we're down to 15, but it's still positive. And then we talked about next meetings. We're gonna meet on May 3rd, and we're gonna finalize the adjusted budget. And I think we're gonna talk about assumptions, hopefully at that point as well. So we talked a little bit about, we'd like to have some information from the technology group, what we should have for assumptions there. Do we need a bus? What facilities, items do we need? So we need some input from the different groups. We talked about reviewing dependable solutions a bit, and just, what level we're gonna be at next year with them. And then we talked about the preschool as well. So what was the preschool expected cost, and what was the actual cost for the preschool, and maybe get a report back on, is it successful or not? Is it a project that we should continue? So we were trying to come up with the things that we just recently did, like preschool, dependable solutions, stuff like that, to say, was it successful or not? Should we continue with the program? Should we make adjustments? There was also some discussion about changing in some staffing and stuff like that as well. How to best align the staffing needs of the school. So I guess everything was all right for this year, and we're about ready to start for next year, but we need those assumptions before we can really do a whole lot. So no, nothing earth-shattering out of the meeting, but it's all good stuff. It was good discussion.
No, it was a very good discussion. It was good to just have some time to.
The shocking one would be the half year, if the MBA and MBA got shut down, because then with your unemployment.
Oh, yeah, that's why we're kind of monitoring that and see.
Yeah, and we don't expect that to happen, but worst case scenario, if it did, what would be the financial?
Right, because technically we're told that the state wouldn't do that.
The state wouldn't do that, but
It's not like we have
if they
that
shut
piece
them
of
down at the
paper
end of the
and
year, we
somebody
still
signed
would
it.
have,
We'd still be.
we
Yeah,
would
we'd
still
still
be
be
on the
liable.
hook for unemployment
Until,
right.
that's the number we were worried about, is
Right.
what then, and what number would that
Yeah,
be,
if
and
they
how
shut
much
them
would we
down in
have to have
June,
available,
and we're
so.
past June, we're stuck for a year.
Right, that's what we have to kind of look at.
So it's just making sure that we're comfortable with
Yep,
planning.
and we are for
Right.
this year,
That's the
so,
scary one.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then we meet May 3rd, and again, we'd like to go over assumptions, but then June 7th is what we tentatively have for the adoption of a preliminary FY19 budget. So facilities and tech group, if you guys can be thinking about your lists to bring back to finance, that would be wonderful, because we don't, we can't do assumptions without input from those committees, so.
Well, everybody has to work interconnectedly.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know when the next facility meeting.
And we said I forget, one bus this year, or?
One bus this year.
One bus, yeah.
One bus this year, most likely a gas. Right, Randy is, it's a gas. Randy is trying it out right now, and it's actually about 9,000 less than a diesel. But then as far as maintenance and repairs and the actual fuel costs, it's considerably less.
So all that's changing, and I guess as of, I think Randy was saying like a couple years ago, they started building gas buses again, more so. Because
Now
the
they're
cost,
doing propane.
yeah, because gas is becoming cheaper and there's just,
And Randy and I talked about propane, and he said, we don't have a large enough fleet to really warrant switching yet. Maybe in 15 years, we will
Will
get
they
to that
make
point.
hybrid buses?
anyway.
The
I mean,
Tesla
We're talking about a
bus-
gas bus here.
I'm sure they're very
people? We're going
expensive, but
from
I'm just
diesel?
wondering if there's, there's something out there.
Actually, switching to gas will help our electricity use, because the diesel buses have to be plugged in all winter.
Mhm.
And so the gas bus won't have to be plugged in, so we're going to get a savings in electricity, huge savings in electricity. Because if you saw the amount of electricity that our bus barn uses,
Really?
oh,
Wow, you would think it would
Huge.
be that.
oh
Why
no.
don't they have it on a timer? Because it doesn't have to, I don't think it has to be plugged in 24/7. I think it could be.
Oh no,
plugged in.
it's plugged
Where they-
in at night.
Well, no, but I mean, they could have it where it comes on at like 3 o'clock
4
in the morning,
or
or
something.
4 in the
and-
morning. Because you only have to have them plugged in for X amount of time before you start them. It's like
That's true.
any diesel vehicle, if you have it where it comes, you plug it in an hour before you start it, it's usually warm enough.
We could look into timers, that's a good idea.
You know, that may save us some fundage.
Randy might have a timer like that already. I suspect he would only have them coming on for as much time as needed.
No, it's, I mean,
But
you may
diesels-
check
To check on it, but
Yeah, ask
yeah,
them if
it's
that's the
just,
case.
but if you
Yeah.
saw the amount of electricity that bus barn uses.
Because you wouldn't think it would be that. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I have a vehicle plugged in all the time, but,
It's easier.
yeah.
You can afford those $500.
No, I
Have
can't.
Alexa do it,
Yeah, Alexa. I
turn on the
Google.
buses.
But anyway, the gas is the newest thing, so we're looking at that, and Randy's supposed to give us some numbers and ideas.
Mhm.
Because that may be the direction we're going, especially with diesel, the price it is today.
Propane's have rebates on them now for 2,500, was it? I think it's in that DNA.
So, anything else, Mimi, you have?
Nope, that was it.
Anybody have any questions on that? I think that was the last of the meetings, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, do you have anything, Corinne, feedback? Thank yous, great achievement for Zach. That's-
Well, the achievement for
Congratulations.
Zach, the achievement for Noah,
Yeah.
the science
The
fair,
science fair.
yeah.
Like we said in the marketing meeting, we have some phenomenal kids.
Oh, speaking
doing
of science
phenomenal
fair, we
things.
have an online ninth grader who won a national, the K-12 science fair contest as well, so.
Right. See,
So
all
for the
that
ninth
stuff
grade
is what
division.
we talked in the marketing meeting that we need to bombard people with, so they know what's happening.
And
How did you say that, Ron? Great kids doing great.
Great, kids doing great things, yeah, somebody else said it, but I just thought we should take off
G
on
to
that.
G. So, okay. That's it, folks. So I have a motion to adjourn.
Make a
Everybody-
motion to adjourn.
okay.
So I have a second.
Second.
Second by Gary. Discussion? I know you don't want all hang here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I had one question about the propane. Can you have a dual purpose one so you could run the bus and a grill?
Jeez.
It's an idea, Ron.